Hi, I'm Zach,
And I'm Ben.
and welcome to the Movie Vault. Today we will be reviewing Billie Eilish and the Sundance Kid. Oh, my bad. It will be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It is part of our Paul Newman arc, as we have said before, and it is the third film following The Hustler and Cool Hand Luke. I was almost blanking on that one. And then after this, it will be followed by two more films in the five movie arc that we're doing in this series or whatever. But I thought to myself, why is his name Paul Newman, Ben? What's your guess?
Well, since you're asking that, my original thought was his mom named him Paul Newman. But is that not the case?
No, that's not the case. In each and every movie, he presents himself as a new man. Would you agree with that?
I don't know whether I agree with that. He resembles Luke a lot in this. Well, he does represent a new man. He wasn't Butch Cassidy in the last movie.
Are you saying that he's not a new man? He's not a completely different character in this movie?
I'm just saying he has very Paul Newman-esque characteristics in all of the movies. And usually I'm like, wow, he's really leaning into being Paul Newman even more in this movie from the last one.
I stand by, in each and every movie, he presents himself as a new man.
Okay.
And this film was in 1973, correct?
No, this was 1969.
69. Oh my.
I think we said it wrong in the last episode. I think I said it was 1968. So
Okay.
to all our viewers who are screaming and yelling at me, I apologize, 1969. And then The Sting is 1973.
Okay.
And that's next.
All right. And again, it's going to be another Paul Newman, Robert Redford movie.
Another George Roy Hill movie.
Yes, you're very right. So this film obviously stars Paul Newman and Robert Redford, Catherine Ross, Strother Martin, Jeff Corey, and Henry Jones.
And you might recognize Strother Martin from Cool Hand Luke. He was the prison warden.
Yes, he was. I just noticed that.
And he's listed as like the fourth guy in this movie, but he plays Percy Gareth or something like that. And he has like 2 lines in the movie at the end. So it's not, I don't know why he's listed so high.
Garris. Yeah,
Percy Garris. Yeah, he's the guy who hires them in Bolivia and then gets shot. And then he's listed as like the 4th main actor.
Well, his body shape changed.
Really?
Would you say it did?
Yeah, it changed a little bit maybe.
I didn't recognize him.
No, and you only can he also has a beard. And his voice it's not quite the same. It still has a little bit of the same tone.
Well, he talks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
but he doesn't
different.
say, what we have here is a failure to communicate. But it's not, he doesn't play it up that much, his voice.
Yeah.
So that's why you get confused.
Yeah. Written by William Goldman and produced by John Foreman, which is a great name.
And you know what book William Goldman wrote that turned into a very famous movie?
Is it To Kill a Mockingbird?
It was not To Kill a Mockingbird. It is The Princess Bride.
Oh,
I only say that because the book The Princess Bride, which is written by William Goldman, is an excellent book, actually. And he references Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in the book, The Princess Bride. Most people don't know that The Princess Bride was a book, so I like to, and it's one of my favorites, so I like to point out to people that that's the case.
And that book came out in 1973, so that might have been my confusion. It was a 20th Century Fox film. I'm just stating some of these facts that I wrote down, but and it's a pretty good time. It's pretty close to our standard hour and a half, but it's about a little bit less than an hour and 20, about an hour and 10 something. I had a few fun facts about Paul Newman. I felt like we haven't really talked about him as an actor.
No, you're right. We should really get into, since we're highlighting Paul Newman, we should get into some facts about Paul Newman.
This is what I have. A lot of this is from just quotes from Wikipedia, just assembled by me. Did you know? Well, you don't. There's no way you know this. Well, if you do, then I'll be very impressed. And if you're listening out there, I'll be impressed by you as well. He's the second son of Teresa Garth and Arthur Sigmund Newman, Sr., who ran a sporting goods store. His father was Jewish. Mother was actually, it says she was doesn't really say where she's from, or at least I didn't write it down, but she's from Austro-Hungarian Empire in the Kingdom of Hungary, which is really cool. So what a mix of cultures. And she practiced Christian Science.
Okay, so quite a mixture of different religions and ethnicities at play.
Mm-hmm. And she was born to a Roman Catholic family. So he actually grew up and was born in Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Near Cleveland.
He was in Cleveland. He did his Bachelor's of Arts in Drama and Economics at Kenyon College.
No way.
Yep. And he attended the Yale School of Drama before studying at the Actors Studio with Lee Strasberg. And he won many national championships as a race car driver in the Sports Car Club of America. And he was the co-founder of Newman's Own, which we will be trying on this podcast, which is a food company where he donates all of the post-tax profits. Post-tax. So the government is taking money from charity and royalties to charity. And as of May 21, these donations have totaled over $570 million US. He was a World War II veteran. He worked in the Navy. He wasn't really good at his job. That he tried to be a gunman. They said he wasn't good, so they moved him around a little bit. I mean, that's pretty much his story. I thought this guy just has the most interesting life.
Yeah, he does have a very interesting life.
He's a veteran. He comes from Christian Science, Catholicism, and Hungary, Austro-Hungarian Empire. And he settles down and is raised here in Shaker Heights, Ohio. Yep,
and goes to Kenyon, or right up the road from here, and I always forget what the town's name is. Gambier. It's close to Mount Vernon, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I played basketball there. One of my best basketball games in my high school career, I was at Kenyon College. Mm. But it has some oddly very famous people. It's a very expensive school, one of the most expensive schools in the U.S. to go to. Definitely
really?
One of the most expensive in all. It's like $60K a year.
Who would do that?
I don't know. It's like
what's so good about
there's
it?
These schools in Ohio, Oberlin, Kenyon, and maybe Worcester. Worcester's a little bit more like they're trying to be, but I don't know what they actually are.
But what's the draw?
The draw is that it's like, I feel like they're just like very, very well-known liberal arts schools, like strictly liberal arts. Like, don't think any engineering, science. We don't have any graduate degrees. They're mostly undergrad only, but very well known for the liberal arts. So it kind of makes sense that somebody like Paul Newman would go there, who's like in the arts. That's more what I think of like the draw being. Like David Foster Wallace, the author, he had a famous commencement speech at Kenyon College. One of my professors played it. So like they get those kind of people, like the artsy, fartsy,
gotcha.
Authors.
So World War II veterans in the Navy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Those kind of people.
Okay.
Go to Kenyon College.
I thought we'd have a little bit on that. That's enough about Paul Newman's kind of backstory for now. We can do a little bit more in the next two episodes. But, I mean, that kind of plays into his acting, I would say. I mean, now, you might disagree. I think in this film, his range expands. I think
yeah. Okay.
I think he's a new man.
I wasn't trying to not give him credit. I think his range expands every movie from the last.
Okay.
But, of course, it helps that I've seen every movie. I don't know that you have. But I think his range expands. That's fair to say. But it also feels like he's understanding himself better. Like, it's not necessarily that he's new. It's that he like knows what strings to pull and what buttons to press even better.
I would also say this
before.
character fits his natural personality a little bit better.
Yes.
Than the first two.
And it is interesting because I noticed on Wikipedia it calls it an American Western buddy film. And I don't know whether I should bring this up right at the beginning of the episode, but I was looking up the Roger Ebert review, and he gave this film 2.5 stars, which I was a little surprised by. Because he rates out of 4, so what's that, like a 60%, 65%, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, he didn't like this movie that much. Like 2.5 stars for a movie that was in the AFI Top 100, 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains, 100 Years, 100 Movies, 10th Anniversary Edition, all those lists. American Film Institute's it's in the Library of Congress.
Yep.
It's like a well-respected movie. Like even if you've never watched it, I think like most people would be like, oh yeah, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has a memorable name, and that freeze frame that's at the end of the movie is like, in the poster in general, is just like a very famous poster. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like I've seen it around places.
Yeah.
Before I'd even watched it, and Roger Ebert has issues with the pacing, and he says that William Goldsman's scripts never allowed it to be a Western.
Interesting. That sounds personal.
That was his gripe with the film, and I thought that was kind of an odd take.
Yeah, that seems kind of close to home. Like he has some gripes against Goldman, because Goldman actually won Oscar for best writing for this film.
I know, and so I'm like, what made everyone else like this movie strike a chord with them, and that them like the pacing? Because I agree, the pacing is a little eccentric. I'm not gonna say it's like the most rhythmic, snappy pacing of any movie. It has some interesting montage sequences, but I thought the key to it was the interesting part. Like every decision that they make in this movie keeps you interested in what's going on. But then at the heart and soul of the movie, you have the buddy element, which I think is what he's missing. Like it's not supposed to be a Western, it's supposed to be a buddy film. It's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's Paul Newman and Robert Redford. And I couldn't help but look at Robert Redford and be like, that's Brad Pitt.
I thought the same thing at the beginning of the film. I promise you that.
And I couldn't figure out who Paul Newman is, like a modern comparison to Paul Newman, and maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just that's Paul Newman. But
Paul Rudd
could be. But it's just like the devilishly handsome sidekick and the like charismatic but more brainy lead.
Leo?
Like, I mean,
is this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I don't want to say that because I don't think it's a one-to-one.
It's a little bit Western, but it's not really Western. Right? Are they acting? Is this on a set?
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, I see Ebert's point. I mean, there are many times as you go through this film, I just remember about halfway through the film, it just does this montage of pictures, right?
Yep.
And I actually thought it was a really cool scene. Mm-hmm. But it's just like it's going through all these adventures and kind of skipping a lot of time of their adventures in Bolivia. Actually in Harlem before they go to Bolivia, I believe. And I just remember thinking like, oh, this is kind of a weird turn. And we were kind of building up this trip and they were just being chased for like 45 minutes. And now they're just all of a sudden going to go to another country. And then after they're in this country for a while, then they get caught again by different people. And it's just like, it didn't really have like a regular story arc where it's like, you know, you have the beginning, the middle, and then the climax.
Or like a big showdown like you would expect in a Western. And
there was some type of showdown at the end, but it wasn't against even the same people that were chasing them in the U.S. So I can see what Ebert means. It's kind of a little, the movie doesn't really, the direction was a little bit zigzag, I'd say. But I felt like that worked for me because it's not really about the drama. It's not really about the external things. It really was about the characters and their interactions. And even at the end, you kind of realize like, oh, they're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep going from place to place. And he's just going to keep coming up with a different country, you know, Bolivia and then Australia or something else. My review, I just put Australia is greater than Bolivia. But so I would disagree with Ebert. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. So about an 80%. So I gave it about 15%, maybe 12.5% more than Ebert. So I don't know. Would you give it?
I haven't put in my new rating yet. I think I'd give it 4 out of 5. I don't know whether I gave it 3.5 the last time I
You did
watched it
originally.
Yeah. I probably give it 4 now. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's what I had noticed too. Like the beginning of the film being in the like, it's not black and white, but it's like some sort of toned. It's not in color either. Mm-hmm. It's like a tannish tone to the movie, and then switching to color. And then switching back to like the montage where it's like black and white again. It's like it's very interesting cinematography. And the back and forth between Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and the fact that it's a very like they're being chased, their life's on the line, but it's also like a kind of silly movie at times. like the bicycle sequence where he's Etta, who is Sundance's girlfriend, is like almost this like flirtatious sequence with Butch where he's riding around on this new modern technology of the bicycle, and then eventually there's a moment where he like says the future doesn't matter or something. He kicks the bicycle to the curb, but it's like it's not afraid to not take itself seriously and then also have like really cool action sequences at the same time. Maybe it almost paved the way for like
Marvel.
I wasn't gonna say Marvel, but like the modern action, basically Marvel, where it's like quippy but also action and there's suspense still.
So we found the person. Paul Newman is RDJ.
Yeah, he is RDJ. Yes, that's a great comparison.
Yeah,
charismatic, very good looking, but like he draws you in more because of his quick wit. Yeah, and his verbiage than his looks.
Oh yeah, and again, that's a lot of that goes to Paul Newman. You're right though. I mean, it was pretty. To give a couple examples, I mean, when they were just like cornered by these people that were chasing them that were paid by that guy, and then Sundance admits that he can't swim, and then he just starts cracking up. He's like, "Now you tell me." And then I remember another scene at the end when he's like, "I've never shot anyone before," and he's like, "Now you tell me," you know.
Yeah, this is a terrible time to say that.
Mm-hmm. And there are many moments like that where they just kind of start cracking up. We're in the middle of a gunfight, and they're like, "All right, next time I say to go to Bolivia, we go to Bolivia," you know. And then he's like, "I don't want to hear any more plans." I think the funniest part of the movie for me was when he said, "Why don't you shoot me?" or something like that. And he goes, "You've had worse ideas today," or something like that. You've had worse ideas recently, and then it just cuts right away to the next scene. I mean, a lot of comic relief, a lot of
them trying to learn Spanish.
Yeah, to rob a bank, you know.
To rob a bank. And the fact that they moved to Bolivia just to like rob banks in Bolivia was kind of funny to me. It's like it's like this is just a travel. There's only one thing we can do, and that's rob banks. So if we go to Bolivia, we're still going to be robbing banks. That's our occupation.
And then to contrast that and juxtapose, there are scenes where you're really stressed because those horsemen are coming really close to them, right? And I mean,
and they're like the enemy, but we don't really get a whole lot of. There's that guy riling up people in the town, the sheriff or marshal or something, to chase them, but you don't get like a whole lot of like. They're just the antagonists. They're chasing after them.
And they have some, you know, personalities just by word of mouth. You know, the guy in the white hat or the tracker, the Indian guy. What they call him, Lord something, Baltimore.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's the tracker guy. He's the Indian with the white name. But. So, I mean, there are these fierce people kind of chasing after them. And then to Ebert's point, they kind of just disappear halfway through the movie, and then other people come to chase them later on in the film. So,
and that makes you realize that the film isn't really about who's chasing them. It's about their lifestyle and how they can't give it up. Like, they basically are in a life of crime, and they will be in a life of crime because even if they get, which I think it's kind of implied they don't get out of the Bolivia situation because they didn't know the entire like military came and was camped out, and so when they run out and there's the freeze frame, I think we're supposed to think, well, maybe they miraculously got out of it because they're Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they're incredible and their luck hasn't run out yet. But even if they did get to Australia, it's like. They even say it like, but the Sundance Kid knows. He's like, this would just happen again. Butch wants to be like, oh no, it wouldn't. But of course it would. Mm-hmm. And so you can sort of see it's a good relationship, but it's also a really toxic relationship because you got Butch, who is always sort of the more optimistic one, who's painting this picture of what we could do. And I don't know what Sundance's. Other than he likes Butch, like, and he's a good shooter, he doesn't know what else to do. Like, I don't know why he feels like he has to follow him around, but
I don't know. He obviously looks up to him in some way.
And
he sticks up for him when the gang kind of turns on Butch in the
hole in the wall gang.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like these two have done this many times before. You know, Bolivia is not the first time they've run off to a new area and started new lives, because it sounded like they left the hole in the wall gang for a long time and multiple times. And then that's why the mutiny kind of starts from within. And then when they go back, and then people are talking about, you know, replacing Butch, it's, I mean, I guess it's kind of inferring that they kind of go out and do these things. It's just them two, it's like Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
they're just
and that's ultimately, I think it's they have a relationship that is just like inseparable at this point. They're like they're not married, but it's like it's like if you're robbers, if you're criminals, and you like get married, and marriage means this is a terrible.
It's like
analogy.
a work husband.
But the marriage just means like you're married in all criminal activities. Like anything that's criminal, you have to do together, and that's like what you do. That's kind of the situation that they're in, and it's also because it makes for a good movie, and it is fun to watch these two guys.
I mean, it's like Ride Along. It's you have all these buddy cop movies, or Bad Boys would be another one.
Bad Boys. But what's interesting is going off of Cool Hand Luke and kind of The Hustler. It's again Paul Newman as not a good guy. He's a guy who robs banks. He's an anti-hero.
And I think we'll continue seeing that later on.
We'll continue seeing that. And that's what made me really start thinking about it, how it was interesting how Paul Newman picked his roles. Because I'm like, he's somebody who you think of, like, he's on the spaghetti, that sauce that we have here that we're going to try later. And he's given money to children in real life. He's a race car driver. Like in real life, Paul Newman's like seemingly by appearances, he's a great guy. But then in the film, he picks these roles that are like he's a bad guy, but you are rooting for him. He's the anti-hero, and he's like a true. He's a true, like, in all regards, you're like, I love this guy. I'm rooting for him. There's not really anything like. Until it comes to, he's robbing banks, and maybe he's not considering.
And maybe he's talking to that girl a little creepy when he says her white body is his.
Yeah. Wait, when does he say that?
When he rides the bike around that little hut that.
He'd be in the wrong for saying that.
Yeah.
And maybe he's a little weird, or it's a little. Yeah, the bank robbing, the weird relationship with his friend's girlfriend, which
Sundance knew that there was something else going on between.
Which I don't know how much Sundance cares, because he's kind of using her too.
And that
it's
scene
not the best
where
relationship.
He was using the gun to force her to declothe. I was very scared of that scene.
Well, because it sets up like it's not like it's a rape scene.
Yeah,
and it's like, and I forgot that
getting dark.
I was like, what the heck? But even it not being that technically, I guess, like, in what relationship is it healthy? Is it healthy that you establish that I can point a gun at you and we're like even like role playing this?
Or in what relationship is it healthy for you to say, well, if you start whining, I'll just drop you off wherever you are, and then she goes, all right, I won't whine. I'll do your shoes. I'll do everything you want. I just don't want to watch you die.
So maybe what I'm saying is our perception of people is often in how they talk and how they look. And these two guys know how to talk. They're quick with it. They are funny. So naturally we gravitate towards them and are like, we like these guys. But then they start saying stuff that you're like, wait, what did he just say? All of a sudden, he doesn't sound as nice, and maybe that's a good lesson for real life.
Yeah.
There's people like that out there that they know how to use their charisma to manipulate people.
Oh yeah, we both do that. And the thing is about these characters, you don't really get much backstory for either of these characters.
No, yeah, you're really
they're kind of
at
mystery
straws.
men, just these caricatures running down into the distance, into the sunset with the dust in the background, and. So really, the content that you get in this film is just their interactions with the people and then you kind of have to infer who they are from there. And you kind of can see Butch as kind of this leader guy, the protagonist guy. He's a little bit goofy, right? So he has some levity to him, but he's a more serious character and takes things more seriously, I'd say, than Paul Newman's previous characters. Which I forget the name of him in The Hustler, but I know Luke.
Fast Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie and then Luke. So Eddie and Luke. Eddie's like a hyper-focused, whiplashian. I always use that word.
Mm-hmm.
Just guy that wants to use every single ounce of himself to complete a certain task that he has convinced himself that he needs to complete, which is being the best pool player in the world and defeating Minnesota Fats not only once, but stealing all of his money. That's how obsessed he is. Then Cool Hand Luke is a little bit different. He's also kind of, well, actually, he's very different. He's just kind of floating as life goes by, but that's because he has a backstory where comes from a broken home and never really had anybody planning anything for him, so he's just floating through life. And then this character is kind of has himself a little bit more together than the other two. He's not emotionally unstable, where his ego is so fragile that he has to win by so many games of pool, and he's not just floating through life without a plan. He leads a team. He has good relationship with Sundance, so he's emotionally stable. So, I mean, it's a little bit different character, and I think Paul Newman's acting plays well into this character because it seems a little bit more controlled and directed. It seems like when Paul Newman is able to express thoughtfulness through his characters, where in his previous characters, at least in the arc that we're doing, his characters didn't really have much previous thought in anything that they've done. Like, they don't plan anything. They don't really, they don't put much thought in any of their actions. So I think Paul Newman's, does that make sense?
They're a lot more reactionary.
Yeah.
Whereas
emotional, volatile, and
Yeah.
I liked that this guy is more sensible. And I think Paul does a really good sensible character.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that assessment.
And his emotions are less ambiguous, is what I'm trying to say as well. But the same sparkle of levity. They all have that kind of sparkle.
Very true. And I do think that with this movie, compared to like Cool Hand Luke or maybe even The Hustler, there actually may be less thematically. It is truly more about just the characters and just watching their actions and thinking about their actions. I mean, there's not the Vietnam War possible tie-in that there is for Cool Hand Luke. There's not the crazy tragic suicide moment sort of mental health thing that comes along with The Hustler that was like very shocking, maybe ahead of its time. But again, this movie maybe is a good blueprint for you always want to think about movies too for their entertainment value, and this movie has a lot of that, along with being just like witty and it's not dry at all. There's a lot of westerns. There's been a lot of westerns, and a lot of them are like kind of slow and dry and drag on. This one is just it's just a different take on the genre in general. Yep. Or even to the point where Roger Ebert was criticizing it, but I would say that's because it doesn't really fit. It's not really like a classic western. It's not a spaghetti western. It's not necessarily trying to like enact some aspects of a western and then turn them on its head. It's just like set in the West and then doing its own thing, which
and
I
even
appreciate.
Go in the city and go into other countries, so it's not really restricted to that either.
Right. So I think it goes to show that you can have a few elements of a genre, but then be like, but we're doing our own thing. And Butch Cassidy, I mean, I don't know the history of the West, but he's a big name. This is like, somebody that like Billy the Kid or like somebody like that. So, this is also around the time. Oh, what's that other movie? Bonnie and Clyde. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that was the West, but I'm just now at this point I'm just thinking of like big names that were criminals. Actually, Bonnie and Clyde,
Hamburglar.
I don't know what the errors confuse me, but Bonnie and Clyde also were big names. So Butch Cassidy would have been up there with some of the most famous criminals, and so this is a movie like the most popular movie about him. But I don't think it's like that based on the actual history. Maybe he did escape to Bolivia, but it's definitely like we're Paul Newmanifying Butch Cassidy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even at the beginning of the film, it was like much of what happens is actually happen. Much of what is shown here actually happened. So it's like there's a lot of room for error. It's kind of like based on a true story. That's their equivalent.
Yeah, because they don't want to. Yeah, they want to make a compelling, interesting story. Yeah. So, all that to say, I agree with you, and I'm excited with the different directions that this movie went in, and how Paul Newman like continued to develop his acting skills.
Yeah, it's an improvement.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's not a deprovement. But would you? Well, it is. I'm having a hard time because I would say Cool Hand Luke might be a more iconic performance, but also the movie focuses a lot more on just him and Cool Hand Luke.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I was teetering.
They're meant to do different things. Cool Hand Luke was a character film.
Because Robert Redford also has a great performance in this movie, and we could probably do a Robert Redford series at some point, but we won't do that. Do that probably.
Does he have his own like food line, like breadsticks?
Maybe.
Robert Redford churros.
Robert Redford red peppers. I don't know.
That would be great. Like some spicy habaneros.
That would be cool. He should have done that if he didn't. He's
still alive. He's 87 now. He could probably do it.
Yeah, we can call him up.
Do you think
Rob?
Do you think this is a better performance than Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where he plays?
I forgot he played
Pierce.
Yes, I think it's better than that.
You think it's better?
Now, I'll have to rewatch The Sting and see whether I think this or The Sting's performance is better. I think he is pretty good in The Sting.
And The Sting is how many years later?
This was 4 years later.
Okay, yeah, this is 76. And
it is everyone reuniting. George Roy Hill, Robert Redford, Paul Newman. So we get to see George Roy Hill. I don't have much to say about him.
Well, we'll see if his role is very minimal in The Sting. I haven't seen The Sting. Because you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I have seen it. His two most famous movies are Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting. So, I don't know. I don't know what that says about him or whether he is really good at pulling good performances from Paul Newman and Robert Redford, or I don't know.
He's probably just in that circle. They're like, hey, we need a small role filled. Let's get this guy with a cool name.
I was trying to figure out some of Robert Redford's other iconic performances, but now that's getting into the weeds a little bit. We have a food review to do.
So let's get to it.
So let us get to it.
Today's episode is sponsored by Newman's Own Tomato and Basil Pasta Sauce, where the motto is, let's give it all away, where Paul Newman has founded an organization that gives all of the money and profits to children.
I believe so.
How do they do that?
Well, let's hope they have some information on the back. Newman's Own proudly supports Serious Fun Children's Network, which delivers more than 160,000 life-changing experiences each year to kids living with serious illnesses.
So it's like Make-A-Wish, but with food.
And it's funded by Paul Newman. This definitely seems like something Paul Newman would be into, as he was actually a race car driver, as our friend Seamus pointed out. And we can thank Seamus for giving us this idea of this segment of the Movie Vault.
So in honor of Paul Newman's great act of kindness, if we want to put it that way, we are going to try this sauce, and we have in front of us some spaghetti. Oh, are you saying I should put more on?
Yeah, put a little bit more on.
Okay.
You want to taste the sauce.
Okay. And
we know the noodles are going to taste like pasta noodles.
And this is not an ASMR episode. We got the tomato and basil flavor made with premium Italian-style herbs. It's pasta sauce. You're sniffing it. That's
yeah.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to put my face against the microphone. I'm just going to try it real quick because we already had an ASMR episode. If you want to listen to that, go back to Alex's episode.
That's not our profession.
Yeah. All right. You go first.
All right.
Oh, you're going back for more? Okay.
I wanted more of the sauce.
How would you rate it against a regular Prego?
It's better than regular Prego.
It's more expensive.
Now I have to rate it like it's a tomato and basil because it's not trying to be a meat sauce. It's not trying to be a marinara. It's a tomato and basil based sauce. So you bite into it, you smell it, and you smell whiffs of basil. And then you bite into it, and you're like, there's a strong sense of tomato on my tongue. It is traveling towards the back of my tongue as I'm swallowing. And then all of a sudden, it's like a QRS complex a little bit. It's a spike, a QRS complex. Boom. Right there is some basil. And then it like depolarizes and you're back to the regular tomato flavor.
You just described spaghetti and neural synapses all
well,
at once.
I had an ECG class today, so it's kind of all I can think about right now.
I was about to say there's something else going on. It's pretty good. It's not a. I wouldn't eat this on a cruise, but it's great.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
It's great. All right.
Well,
so we recommend Newman's Own if you would like to make spaghetti.
And remember, 100% of the profits to help kids. I don't know how they give it to kids. They're kind of ambiguous about it, but I don't know. We trust them. We trusted them with our movies, so we can trust them with our pasta sauce and $4.09.
How many pasta sauces would you give this pasta sauce?
Out of?
Whatever scale you want to create.
I'll give it 7 pasta sauces out of 10 pasta sauces.
I would give this 15 pasta sauces out of 19 pasta sauces.
Great. Well, just as ambiguous as the way that they give money to these children. So with that being said, enjoy the show.
If you happen to run away to Bolivia, you may take your car to the airport while you do that. On your way to the airport, your car gets into a little fender bender. Not your fault, but you still need some protection. You need somebody on your side. Who are you going to call? You are like... Well, they weren't really trying to rescue anyone, the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But you are Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid on the cliff. You have nowhere to go. You're cornered on all sides. Then you look down the river, and it's a far drop. It takes a leap of faith. But in the river, you see a sign that says Hedman Anglin Agency.
And it's Jonathan Anglin holding the sign.
It's Jonathan Anglin holding the sign.
And he's swimming.
He's swimming. He's yelling at you. I can save you money on your car insurance.
And
on
you're
your,
like, what?
Your
what?
home insurance, on your business insurance, on your life insurance.
And we're like, what?
And I was like, well, I just got into a fender bender. I actually think that I might need that.
But then he's like, how'd you get in a fender bender with a horse?
I don't. On my way to the airport.
With a horse? Aren't you in the desert with a horse?
No, I'm not. We're going to the airport on the way to Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
I'm escaping to Bolivia.
Oh, I was thinking we're on the cliff. Like
no, but we are on the cliff.
Of the airport?
Yeah, the fender bender happened on a cliffside on the way to the airport.
Oh.
And now we're on the cliff and we're looking down.
Jonathan England's already down there.
And so we take the leap of faith. And how do you take the leap of faith? You have to call 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And once you make that leap of faith, they'll get you set up with the best insurance. They'll compare rates as they're an independent agency. And they'll get you the best quote. And then that can actually change. So depending on your life circumstances, when you're younger, your insurance is, less insurance companies want to take I was actually just explaining this to me. When you're younger, you have higher risk for insurance companies because younger people tend to drive worse. So, you might have less options, but they'll get you the best one that you can get. And then as you get older and they start trusting you a little bit more and your record's better.
And then you get even older and they trust you a little bit less.
Yeah. You got to hit the sweet spot. Because if you get too old, they stop trusting you. Mm-hmm. But then more insurance companies that will offer better rates will be available to you. And so that's the thing. You don't want to just lock into one car insurance. You could switch multiple times throughout your life. And that's okay. That's not like a bad thing. It's not like you're upset. And if you're with Hedman Anglin Agency, since they're independent, you don't have to be tied down to a specific company, you don't have to feel bad when you leave, So,
but you shouldn't leave.
But you shouldn't leave Hedman Anglin Agency. You can leave whatever insurance company you're being serviced through. You can leave Geico.
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know, but you could leave Geico as long as you're doing it through Hedman Anglin Agency.
Can we do a Hedman Anglin Agency ad where we deface other insurance?
We probably shouldn't do that because they're selling insurance for all those companies.
Oh, okay.
So also stay on Geico.
But only through Hedman Anglin.
But only through Hedman Anglin.
Is that how that works?
I think so. And I don't know for sure whether they sell Geico insurance. You'd have to.
Okay, then drop it. Just drop it.
Just drop it.
Just go to, and if Hedman Anglin Agency says something otherwise, then listen to them.
They're the experts.
Jonathan swimming down there. That's just listen to whatever he says.
We're not trying to bite off more than we can chew here.
No, sometimes we do.
We do that a lot, actually.
So did you know that this film was actually too funny, so they had to very tediously re-edit every single scene?
What? It was too funny.
It was too funny. Did you get a sense of that or a little hint of that lemonade in there? I was trying to make it up my own phrase.
Oh, I was like, what? The lemonade? No, I did not catch the editing.
No, I'm saying, did you get a hint of the film being a little bit too funny for a Western?
Yes, I think I'd already.
But was it too funny?
I don't think it was too funny. I just was making the argument that it didn't need to be a Western.
I think it did.
Really?
Yeah, I just think it fits well with the. I mean, the way that I think the setting was good for the chase scenes.
No, I think it needed to be a Western. Yeah, it wouldn't be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. What I mean by that is it didn't need to be a Western in the sense like it didn't need to be like Stagecoach or like it didn't need to be a traditional Western. It did good by breaking all of the conventions. Now, on the other hand, I could see it wasn't trying to be what's that Mel Brooks movie that's like a spoof of Westerns?
Spaceballs.
No, it's not Spaceballs, but it's like the Western version of Spaceballs.
Well, I don't know.
But anyway, it didn't want to be that movie. So if they thought it was that funny, now I'm like, why can I not remember what this movie is? It's like really famous.
I don't even know what you're talking
it's
about.
It's not Spaceballs. What? Mel Brooks. Or is it Mel Gibbs? No, it's not Mel Gibbs. Half of the movie vault is just me. No. Oh, Blazing Saddles. Yes. This is the movie that I'm talking about. It's a spoof of Westerns, and it's like purposefully... It's like, imagine Spaceballs, but it's like spoofing all of Western tropes. It doesn't need to be that. But...
I'm glad we got
it
that.
Also can get rid of like conventions, and I don't feel like it was too funny. No. They also edited it down, so I didn't see the version that they had before that.
No, I think its charm came from the levity. I think just the interactions between Butch and Sundance were just hilarious in general. I mean, they play off each other so well. Robert Redford. I'm hoping that it plays into. Does it play into the Sting a little bit, where Paul and Robert kind of have some good chemistry? And I'm assuming that's why they got another film together, right? In The Sting, 4 years later. They're really good. They roll off each other. They don't try to steal each other's scenes. They're kind of both scene stealers, and they're both big names. I don't think it was bad at all. But I was looking into some research. I was researching earlier today about the real Sundance Kid, who was born in 1870. Did you hear anything about this guy, the Sundance Kid? Like the real original one?
I've not heard too much about him.
So, I don't know. So this is kind of like the backstory. I'll just give a very quick little overview. So, he was like an American outlaw, kind of like known to have like the best shot and the fastest gunslinging in this group of robbers called the Wild Bunch, which is a cool name. And they went through the Rocky Mountains and just kind of stole from people from the 1880s into the 90s. He started doing this when he was like 15, and then he was imprisoned in his hometown, which that town is Sundance. And he was imprisoned because he stole a horse, which is actually really great. And he went to a hideout in the Hole in the Wall in central Wyoming, and he kind of began his outlaw career there. And then when it was kind of going into 1900s, he joined Butch Cassidy and the girlfriend Etta, and went to New York City and then South America. So there is some kind of real
So they did
ties.
follow like a correlative pattern of what happened.
And then they ended up going to Argentina as well. But then he and Butch Cassidy returned to kind of doing outlaw things, robbing banks, trains, and mining interests in Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, and Peru, and then back to the United States. and then going back to South America again. And then Sundance was actually killed, and then Cassidy took his own life. And then there's another account of their story where they died in the middle of a bank robbery. They were shot. So, but the other stories have Sundance surviving and returning to the U.S. and then dying under a new name called Harry Long somewhere in the West in the 1930s or as late as 1957 in one account. That's all I have on the Sundance.
It's kind of crazy, the whole story, when you hear it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how they decided to portray it in film, because it obviously wasn't supposed to be like a biopic of any kind, really, where it's like trying to like show an accurate representation.
I'm assuming it would,
but
Harry's life is not as funny as this film.
Yeah. But it's interesting how how in real life Butch Cassidy went down in to South America, did all those robberies around, was basically terrorizing South America, came back and then went back. I'm like, I don't know. It's crazy that somebody can just keep doing it without getting caught. I guess it kind of makes you think that they're more like the characters in this film, where it seems like they're somewhat invincible.
Did you just give away your take on the border policy?
Yeah. Just
I'm just joking.
If I speak, I'll be in trouble.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, literally going to any country. But I think when they were in South America and Central America, they weren't really doing outlawry, is what that said.
Oh, okay.
So I think when they came back to the U.S.,
that makes a lot more sense.
because the trains were in the U.S., they weren't in other countries.
Okay, I got a little confused because I thought you were saying that they were doing some of the stuff in South America.
But they might have, because in this film they said that the mines were in Argentina or in Bolivia, and that's true actually, because it said that in the article. So I'm just wondering if they.
And some of it might be that they don't know for sure exactly what was going on.
Well, they don't know this. He might not have been real. There's a picture of him, but he here I can show you the picture.
Oh, but it's sort of one of those tall tale things.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This is him. He doesn't really. He's much less attractive than Paul Newman.
Or
I could see than Robert Redford. I mean,
I could see. Oh, is that
that's Sundance?
That's Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see the resemblance a little bit. He's not as attractive.
This is the Wild Bunch. So that's like his original gang that he was in. They all have a bunch of bowler hats. They look like what's the guy from Meet the Robinsons? The little kid that grows up to be the villain. You haven't seen that?
I've not seen that.
It's not really your
It's going to go over
anyway.
my head.
But these are some of their names. One of them was the Sundance Kid. The other one was Tall Texan. And they had some other ones. There's Robert Leroy Parker and Harvey Logan. So these are like real life outlaws, like people robbing banks and trains. It's just like stuff I didn't think actually existed.
You know the train robbery and Breaking Bad?
Mm-hmm.
Like these people actually did that on the daily.
Yes.
They were just getting on trains. Okay, they didn't do it.
Technology's
gotten better, so you have to have more impressive methods of robbing a train. But still.
Oh, yeah. Back then, they could... I'm just imagining it was probably a lot easier than what they had to do in Breaking Bad, because they had to weigh it and then get the exact weight in water.
Because the whole idea of the Wild West is that there was all this opportunity, but there was also not enough people who could, set law and order. And it was like people like Butch Cassidy could just be like, oh, I'm just gonna rob this train and ride around, and I'll just escape, and there's plenty of places to hide out, and they won't find me. And that worked for a good amount of time for him. But it's never enough, for these people, because they usually have a gambling addiction.
Well, in this film, it was hilarious when he said, "What was the train guy's name? I forget his name every time."
Anyway, the guy who
funded these people to find them.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
W.H. Merriman or something like that.
Something. And he says something like, well, I'd stop robbing him if he paid me the exact amount of money it took to rob, He's just like, what?
This guy's an idiot.
Yeah, he's spending way more money to try to get me. Just give me the amount of money that I robbed. And, that's true. He was kind of greedy, and he always wanted more. And even when they go away to Bolivia and they don't necessarily need money, they could just get some honest jobs. They're still greedy enough to try to go and rob things while they're there. And by the way, that montage where there's the music playing and it's just showing them robbing banks and exploding things, and doing all those things, that was an amazing sequence. I think there are two sequences. The first one is the one where they're in Harlem and they're just going to the fair, doing fun things, and that's the photographs. This one was more of like short clips of them robbing banks and stuff. That was really good as well. But again, it goes to Ebert's point where the pacing with those scenes making, those are like complete left turns to the whole storyline.
It's more like how much are you able to forgive? Because I skimmed through more of Ebert's review, and he really takes a issue with the turn in the film and being like, I really liked what was going on in the start, and they didn't continue any of that. And I didn't like what they did, and it was basically his whole problem with the film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that is true. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with him.
But is that because they followed what I just read from the article pretty closely, or no?
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, to some degree, they're like trying to show that what he was doing is not sustainable, but he's trying to make it sustainable by just moving, and then it's not.
Did you just give your take on global warming? No, I'm just joking.
He seemed to also think that the studio had a lot to do with the decisions that were made, because they spent a lot of money on the actors, and they wanted to protect their interests, kind of like Marvel nowadays.
Sure.
So studios still had a lot of control. I didn't look into, this is just Ebert's opinion. I didn't look into like the background of any of this, but saying that, having the ending the way it was was sort of like Bonnie and Clyde, which had already come out, so they could be like, it's like Bonnie and Clyde, we know that did well, so maybe this will do well, which it did, but it might not be because they had that ending. So just doing things that weren't necessarily like the director or screenwriter's plan, but like there's executives. And I think Ebert, as somebody who probably was a pretty firm believer in like auteur theory and didn't like any hint of studio interference, took a problem with. I don't know. You'd have to read through to verify whether that's true or whether there's really evidence that happened. But I mean, I trust Ebert more than I trust my own knowledge on it. So it could definitely be the case. I just don't know whether it actually ruined the movie. The fact that it's such an iconic movie now makes it hard to judge, because Ebert was judging it closer to when it actually came out.
That's what I'm saying. If I had to guess, this is one of those where he'd probably go back.
Yeah.
He goes back and rates them a little bit higher sometimes. So
maybe give it half a star higher.
Yeah, he might be prideful enough to not give more than a full star back.
Yeah.
But he's done it on a few occasions. We've seen him do it.
Yeah, he definitely has. I think Blade Runner might be one of the ones.
Well, it also depends on the cut for Blade Runner. So.
Yeah, that's true. It might also be because of the cut. But one of my favorite lines from the movie is when Percy Garrett says, "Morons! I've got morons on my team. Nobody is going to rob us going down the mountain. We've got to go. No money going down the mountain." Oh, it was so funny. I was like, he's calling them more. Like, I don't know. It's just like, what is this movie? It's, because he hired them to be and they were, trying to figure out. I'm like, maybe they are morons. Like, maybe this whole movie you thought they were smart and they're actually like so stupid.
I mean, they might be. I mean, they don't really have any plans. So that is, and again, we're just gonna keep comparing Paul Newman's roles, but none of his characters ever have good plans. Ever. I mean, I guess that's.
No, you said he was a better planner. And
he is better, but he sucks still.
Yeah, because it's still about his charisma. He's still leaning on his charisma, and once that runs out,
oh, for sure,
he doesn't have a plan.
And it's not even that. I'm saying, like, maybe when I say he doesn't plan, I'm saying like he has some structure in his life. Luke and Eddie, that neither of them had like good habits.
Yeah,
is what I meant to say. Like, they might have had life plans. Maybe Luke didn't. Eddie did. He wanted to beat Minnesota Fats, but in this film, Butch doesn't really have any actual life plans, but he does have like good healthy habits, I'd say, because he has good relationships and he leads a team, and he's really good at what he does. That's also a good thing. Like, he, in that first scene where that guy kind of starts the mutiny against him, he like distracts him, right? He's like, "Do you want a knife or a gun?" And by the way, he picks a knife because he's never shot anyone before. And then he goes,
I didn't even notice.
Tall guy comes up and he just kicks him right in the nuts after distracting him, and just completely puts his two hands together and hits him in the face. And that guy would have won, but he used his wit. So that means it shows that he's really good at what he does. He has plans.
I was rooting for you the whole time, Butch.
Yeah. And that's how he garners respect, is through his wit. And I think that's why Sundance likes him, because Sundance even says in the film, he's like, well, what are we going to do now after they lost the second horse to try to evade the people chasing them? And Sundance goes, well, you're the brains. You'll think of something, you know? So I think that's why Sundance kind of sticks with him.
Yeah, he knows he's the sharpshooter, and he's just got to rely on the brains of the operation. He probably doesn't even want to have to. The thing about Sundance is he probably just wants to shoot. He doesn't really want to think about how are we going to do this robbery.
Yeah,
he just wants to execute.
It's not. I mean, obviously he couldn't swim, but he just said he wants to fight him because he always wants to shoot, and he has to move to shoot.
Yeah. So in that sense, very different from Butch.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited now to rewatch The Sting, for the next episode, because I'm excited to see Robert Redford and Paul Newman reunited.
We should have done a Robert Redford, Paul Newman series arc. Just them.
Like movies that they're in together.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more than these two?
I don't know. It could have been a short arc. Well, I said pace.
We have a mini arc within our big arc.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's like a tiny story arc.
We have a mini Paul Newman, Robert Redford, George Ray Hill arc. I can tell you for sure that's the only three, the only time those three are together. I think Paul Newman and Rob. Well, actually, I can't say that for sure because they're both also in other George Roy Hill movies. I just don't know if they're both in the same ones.
I wouldn't be surprised if they are. I mean, those people stick together.
Okay. Yeah, I'm only seeing those two. Yep, only two movies.
Well, good. Then we have a mini arc inside of our big arc. That's the Civil War to our Infinity Saga.
So you rate it 4 stars. I rated it 4 stars, I think. I haven't actually put it on my letterbox, so I'm kind of cheating.
Well, don't let me convince you.
No, I was thinking 4 stars before. I should put it in before the episode, but
yeah, you don't want your opinions to change.
I always forgot.
You want to be original.
Should we do some movie highlights?
Yeah, you could go if you want, because I got to get my notes.
I think I only got 2, and they're from I finished watching them after we recorded the last episode. They are Wild Strawberries, the Ingmar Bergman film. Really interesting film about a college professor. I feel like I need to rewatch it to understand it better. And then I finished watching Poor Things, which
Bed's making a nasty face right now.
Not a very pleasant movie, and it was probably the most disappointing Yorgos Lanthimos movie I've watched, because it wasn't very pleasant, which I was expecting, but it was also just, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay, well, we do recommend watching The Lobster and listening to our accompaniment.
Yeah, watch The Lobster, and then The Killing of a Sacred Deer is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, and then I did like Kinds of Kindness, as much as it's really disturbing. I do like Yorgos Lanthimos' filmmaking. Poor Things wasn't for me.
The reason I couldn't remember is because I haven't watched a movie this week besides this.
I kind of wondered. Yeah. I will probably have a couple more that I'll watch tonight that I'll say next week. Those might be the only ones by the time we get to another. Well, we'll see how long. But yeah.
But what's our Instagram again? We always forget to.
Yeah, our Instagram's Movie Vault Pod. Our Instagram's the Movie Vault Pod. Our Twitter's Movie Vault Pod. We're not super active on Twitter, but I'm sure we'll see your tweet eventually. I think we've had one
tweet in 4 years.
Yeah, we used it to get in touch with Bernie, and we don't really, and it's still our really super old logo.
Oh, the green one?
Yeah.
So we haven't touched it or logged in since the first 10 episodes.
No, I've touched it. We just haven't done anything with it, really, since the first 10 episodes. And then, email us, themovievaultpod@gmail.com. I have to remember to check it again, but email us. Mm-hmm. But Instagram would be the best way to reach out to us, so I definitely utilize that.
Yeah, I agree. We'll be posting hopefully a little bit more. We'll see. And
Keeping up to date with the arcs. I was thinking maybe we have a vote on the next arc.
I don't trust people voting.
So maybe we won't do that. But maybe at some point.
I don't even trust our country with voting.
Well, I don't know
Let alone
whether
our listeners.
enough people would be invested.
What is the average IQ of our listeners? Should I go there?
Well, I would hope. Here's the only thing I'll say. I would hope that listening to the movie vault increases your IQ.
I feel smarter, Ben.
Not because we're smart, but because engaging with ideas and movies and stuff, it helps you stimulate your mind and grow your IQ. That definitely is not how that works. But
and that really sounded dumb.
Grow your IQ with Movie Vault supplements.
Grow your IP, your intellectual property.
That's true. You can do that.
Mm-hmm. As Ben and I do every single day. This is episode 117. 100 episodes ago, it was episode 17. It was Die Hard, and it was December 2020. That was our first Christmas movie that we did.
And I got COVID right after. We had COVID that Christmas.
Really?
Yep. We did record the Soul episode and I'm doing them out of order. We did the Swiss Army Man episode with Caleb.
Yeah.
And then Soul with my brother,
Jonathan.
and we recorded them both virtually.
We recorded Swiss Army Man virtually?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I regret doing.
You regret doing it.
Oh, yeah. That
movie is so dumb.
That could have been Seven Samurai in that spot.
I don't think I I watched that movie twice and not in that long of time. And I don't really think I like it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think at the time I tried to convince myself that I liked it.
What is the worst movie that we've reviewed on the podcast?
Barbarian. There's something really random. No, it's not Barbarian. I don't know. I feel like there's something that's...
The B movie?
The B movie's not great.
Nacho Libre?
Nacho Libre is not great. Why did we... I don't know why we reviewed Nacho Libre. I think somebody just... I think in the beginning we were kind of just we had this list of movies that people wanted us to review.
Doctor Strange 2, Black Panther 2?
Yeah, those are bad. I mean, White Chicks.
That's got to be the worst.
White Chicks... I mean,
That's
I'm not saying that White Chicks isn't funny, but in terms of film quality, that's got to be one of the lowest that we've reviewed.
I mean, we had to review one Wyan Brothers film.
Fast and Furious 1.
No, because that's a classic. It really is a classic.
It is a good movie.
It's not great, but it is a classic. And we needed Nikolai to sit there saying nothing.
Oh, man.
I shouldn't have said that.
Video episode.
Episode. If we're gonna video any episode, that
remember
was
we did Jojo Rabbit. Every once in a while, I'm just oh, we did that movie. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, why? Bullet Train.
Some of it's just why did we? Well, Jojo Rabbit. It's we had no. Now we're only starting to have a sense of congruency with what movies we do, because it would literally just be we're doing Jojo Rabbit, and then we have this guest on, and we'll do this movie, and then we had that one. That we even did Fight Club with Jake where Zach couldn't make it, and we were just I guess we're doing it without Zach.
Yeah, I remember that. I was very last minute. I was thinking about that on the way here, actually.
Yeah.
I was I canceled last minute that night. I would never do that these days.
Yeah, and I only probably still did it because we had a guest on.
Yeah. I still haven't seen Fight Club. Not because I refuse, it's just I want to wait for a very special day.
Maybe we'll do a Fincher arc and we'll review it.
Do we review The Game again?
No, we don't have to do every Fincher movie.
Yeah. Have we done any other Fincher movies besides Social Network?
We've actually done a lot.
So we can't do a Fincher arc. Those are two of his best
Yeah,
ones.
we've already done a lot of Fincher highlights.
Did we?
We haven't done 7.
I was about to say we could do that.
We could do 7 in some sort of crime arc or 90s crime.
Maybe, yeah.
The thing is, with arcs, I feel I'm only beginning to tap the possibilities of what you could do with them.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can make them about genre, you can make them about era, you can make them about director, actor.
Mm-hmm. We have unlocked a new part of our
combos of actors. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. And I really like it. I appreciate that Zach steered us in this direction because...
I did?
I actually don't...
I thought it was our collective
brain. It must have been our collective.
Because we have a brain that we both kind of have.
It's the same brain.
Yeah.
and then we kind of push in the same direction.
What's the collective unconscious? Who says that?
Collective unconscious. I don't know who says that. There were protesters outside of the state fair today, and they were protesting animal cruelty.
At the fair?
Yeah.
Well, it's not my fault. There's a pregnant pig that's being forced to sit in a 2x4.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting. I was like, oh yeah, I guess some people might be upset about that.
I mean, I went there and I thought, man, I feel bad for this pig, but then I ate bacon the next morning and I stopped caring.
Right. Well, that's also like they're the farmers. They know what they're doing. I'm not.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's what I think. I don't know.
We always assume they're the government. They know what they're doing. We always
Exactly.
assume these things, Ben.
That's better to assume.
The Secret Service, they know how to protect the president, right? We trust them.
The secret second podcast.
If there's a sloped roof, they'll put someone up there, right?
They will.
Yep.
And they know. If it's sloped, they can't put someone up there. That's
because they might slip.
That. They might slip.
Tim Dillon said it's because there's so much grease from American foods and Taco Bell. He's like, that was the danger up there. Anyway.
All right. With that,
I think it was Carl Jung, with the collective unconscious.
Yes, that sounds right.
It might have been.
That sounds right.
Where do you think you're at right now with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Well, I need to sleep, but I also.
So you're at physiological. You're at the base.
Yeah, I'm at the base, but I need to stay up.
Okay, we'll keep fighting that. Focus on that second level.
It's me versus my circadian rhythm right now.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be driving home and getting to bed here soon. So, sorry, Ben.
Yep.
Well, with that, do you want to close the vault?
Yeah, I'll close it. Dun 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 dun.